last video, we actually managed to cover the topic of data types, print function, and variables. In this video, we're going to be looking at operations, starting off with arithmetic operations. So what are arithmetic operations? Now, the arithmetic operations are the operations that we use on a daily basis in maths or numeracy, right? You could add two numbers, you could subtract two numbers, you could divide two numbers, you could multiply two numbers, you can apply exponent to two numbers, you can divide both numbers and see how many times a number can go into the number you're dividing with, and see what is the remainder when you divide two different types of numbers, right? We can do all that, and those are the arithmetic operations. Now you can apply them in Python as well, with just a few syntax changes, but they're exactly the same and the purpose of them are very similar, right? So starting off, we're going to be applying all these operations right here in our integers, right? We're going to be taking two integers, which are 7 and 6. We're going to be applying all these operations and seeing the outputs in the console in live. Now I know I've put the output, I've actually given the output, but we're going to be applying them to the console either way and then just checking their output if it's correct. Now we're not going to be going through all these because I've got very many examples here, but we're just going to be choosing one, which is applying them to the integer, and we're going to be looking at how to apply them in strings as well, right? If you've covered the integers, automatically we've covered how to apply them in float as well, because they're both numbers and it's the exact same output, right? Well, when I say exact same output, it's basically the same syntax, everything, but the signs just change. Okay, so let's get started. In the Python console here, I know I've said print here, but either way, if you do not put print, it will still show you the output, right? So, let's start off. Now, when we say 7 plus 6, we all know that's going to give us 13, and it gave us 13. When we say 7 minus 6, it will give us 1. When we say 7 times 6, it will give us 42. And when we say 7 divided by 6 is 1.66, 1.166667, right? We know all these. We know all these operations because these are daily basis. Now, there is 3 more arithmetic operations that we do not know about, or most likely some of us do, but most of us don't. Right, what is this then? 7 times 7, 2 multiplication symbols, and 6. What does that mean? That means that 7 raised to the power 6. That's all that means. Now, if you don't know what 7 raised to the power 6, it's basically exponents, and that, which means if you've ever heard the number like 4 squared, which means 4 multiplied by itself 2 times, right? That's what it means. Same applies here. When we say 2 stars, we're saying that 7, in this case, 7 multiplied by itself 6 times, and that will be the output of the number, which is 1176449. So let's check out. As you can see, that is the number that we've got. And here we've got 2 more. We can say 7 divided by 6. 2 divided by symbols. What is this? This is just saying that how many times can the number 6 go into the number 7, right? That is what it shows us. And hopefully it says 1. As you can see, it says 1. Now, we've also got modulus. Now, what is modulus? Modulus is when you apply it to 2 numbers, and then it will show you it will divide both of the numbers and show you the remainder of what are those numbers, right? So if I were to say 5 modulus 2, it would give me 1, because 5 divided by 2 is, somewhat it's in decimals, but if you do not go into decimals and you stop when you need to apply decimals, you have a remainder, and that remainder is what's going to give us, which is 1, because 2 can only go into 5 2 times, so there's 1 left over, so the remainder will be 1. As you can see, the remainder is 1. So those are all the basic operations, or the arithmetic operations that you can apply on integers. And now we're going to go into string, right? We're going to skip the float because they're the exact same, but the numbers are changed with decimals, which we know is not that crazy because we know that we can do the exact same with the decimals when we can do it with integers. Now, all we're going to do is finish off with arithmetic operations once we look at how to apply it in strings and what it does when you apply it in strings. Okay, so let's get started. So here we've we can see that we've got an example up top right here saying print Python plus code. Their Python and code are both in strings. So what happens when we add them, right? We probably can't guess, because when we say add in strings, the definition of add completely changes. Because, for example, if you go back to our integers, when we add them, what it does is actually adds value onto this value. But when we do it in strings, what it does, it actually combines both of those strings and turns them into one big string. So let's look at an example. So here you can see I've got Python plus code, which what it will do is basically combine both of those strings and turn them into one big string. So it would give us Python code, right? I don't know if you can see clearly, but that's the output that's going to come, right? So when we add both strings, we would get one big string. So that's all we need to get from that example. Okay, so that's all in the arithmetic operations, and we're going to go on to the next operations now. And in this video, we're going to be looking at assignment operators. So let's get started. So here in my notepad, you can see the definition of assignment operators. So here we've got an example saying that x equals 10. So what are we doing here? We're basically taking the value 10 and assigning it to the variable x, right? So that's the definition of assignment. So when I say assignment, I mean this definition. And operators is just the operation that you're using to assign this value of 10 to x, which is equal to. So that's the operator there. Okay, so that's all about assignment. Is that it? Well, yeah, that is it, but there is shortcuts of assigning the values to variables, right? So let's look at some of those shortcuts. So here I've got my PyCharm opened, and I've got a project named operators in Python and a Python file named operators assignment operators. Okay, so let's just say I've got the value 10 and I've assigned it to the variable x, right? So x equal to 10. So I'm using the operator equal to for assignment. And let's just say I wanted to print the value. So I print x and I run it, and then I should get 10, right? Yeah. Now let's just say that I wanted to take x's value right now and increment it by 10, right? So I want to add 10 to x's value at present, right? So what would I do? I would say x equal to x's value right now plus 10, right? So that's all that's going on there. And when I say print x, it will hopefully say 10 and then 20, right? Yeah. So because the first value was 10 and then now we incremented it by 10, there's 20. But what if there was a shortcut for doing this, right? So instead of having to say x equal to x's value right now plus 10, we have a shortcut. So let me show you that shortcut. So let's clear this right here. And what you could do is just say x plus is equal to 10. And as you can see, plus is an arithmetic operator, right? We know that it's an arithmetic operator, and we put that in front of our equal to sign and then equal to 10, right? So x plus is equal to 10. So what does that mean? We're saying that x's value right now, add 10, and then that is the newer x's value. So it'll make more sense when I print it. So when I say print x, it will hopefully say 10 and then 20, the exact same. So that is a shortcut right there, where we say plus is equal to 10, it will add on 10 to x's value at present, if that makes sense. Okay, now we've looked at how to increment a value of a variable. Let's look at how to multiply a value of a variable without having to say x is equal to x plus x times 10, right? So let's just say I wanted to multiply x's value at present by, let's just say 15, okay? So what would I do? X equal to x times 10, right? That's very long for just incrementing a variable and multiplying it by 10, right? So is there a shortcut for doing this? Yes, it's the exact same as the addition, but you replace the addition operator, replace it with a multiplication. So just like that, x times is equal to 10, or 15 as we said, and it will multiply x's value by 15 and then save that as the new x variable. So let's look at it now. as you can see, first it was 10. Okay, we forgot to print it. So let's print it. And let's print X here. And when we run it, we should get 10 and 150. Because what it done, it prints X first, which is 10. And then it prints it again once we've multiplied it, which is now 150. So those are some of the shortcuts you can do. You can do this with division, subtraction. I'm going to leave you to do that. But let's look at how to assign them, actually assigning value to a variable with multiple values and multiple variables. So let's look at how to do that. So let's just say I have the variable A, and I also have the variable B. And what I want to do is assign A to the value of 4 and assign B to the value of 6. Right? This is how we would normally do it. A equals 4 and B equals 6, right? And we print both of these values. So we say print A, and let's just print B as well. And we should get, okay, let's just delete all this code up there. And then when we run this, we should get 4 and 6, right? So that was simple. But what if, instead of having to do this, we could just assign two variables to two values in the same line of code? Let me show you what I mean. So A, I want to assign it to 4. Now I'm going to say A comma B because there's two variables to be assigned, and then I'll set that equal to 4 comma 6, right? Does that make sense? Because what I'm saying is A comma B is equal to 4 comma 6. So what I'll think is Python internally will say, okay, he means A equals 4 and B equals 6, okay? So let's print these, A and B, and then we will understand better. So let's say print A, and let's also print B. Okay, and when we run this, we will see that it says 4 comma 6. So it was able to assign two variables with two values in the same line of code, which makes, as you can see, our code is much neater, and also we had to write less lines of code, which we all love, right? And we only used one equal to and not two. So that makes sense, right? And now we have looked at assignment operators. We can move on to the next set of operators. Okay, in this video, we're going to be looking at relational operators. So what are relational operators? So relational operators are when you're trying to find the relation between two things, or you're trying to relate two things, and you're using some operators for it. So here we've got a greater than symbol, a less than symbol, and two equal to sign. We're going to look into each one of those in detail. So let's get started. So here I've got my PyCharm with a project opened called Operators in Python and a file named Relational Operators Open. Right, so let's get started. So let's just say that we had two variables called A and B, and we set those values equal to 4 and 6, right? And let's just also say that we're trying to find if A and B are equal. So how would we do that? I mean, we can't use these because when we put one equal sign, that means that you're assigning the value. But A and B already have values assigned to them, so how do you check them? That's where two equal to sign comes in, right? When you put two equal to sign, that means you're checking the value of a variable, right? You're checking the value of a variable. So if I were to print this, what do you think is going to come, right? This might surprise you, but when we run this, we get a boolean, right? Python sends a boolean value. Remember when we discussed about boolean values in data types? Yeah, that's what it sends. And now it said false because A and B are not equal, right? So it said false. And let's just say we change both of A and B's values equal to 4. What do you think it's going to give now? True, right? Because A and B value are both equal. So we've looked at how to check the values now. For example, let's go back to change our values to different ones, and now I'm trying to check if A's value is greater than B's value. So let's just say this, because I'm saying if A is greater than B, what is the output and what's going to be? Well, it should be true, right? Because A's value is greater than B. So that's how you check if a value is greater than the other value, okay? And let's just say we checked if B's value was greater than A's value. What would we get the output as? That would be false because B's value is not greater than A value, right? Okay, so this is some of the basic stuff. Let's go into a little bit more complex, right? Okay, so we've checked if we could, we checked values, we checked if they were greater than or less than. What if we wanted to check if they're greater than and less than, right? So what I mean that, let's just say we said A, and we said is A greater than or equal to B, right? So we're doing two operations at the same time here. That is possible. So if I said print, what Python interpreter would do is actually go ahead and look at A's value and check if A's value is, first of all, lower than B's value, right? And we know that that's not true, right? That would be false. But is A value equal to B's value? No, it's not as well. So we would get a false, right? So we get false. And now let's try to check the other way around. So let's check if A's value is greater than B's value or A's value is equal to B's value. And we get true because A's value is greater than B's value. So if one thing is correct, it automatically prints that output out. So even if A is not equal to B, as long as when it first checks the value and if it matches, it will just send automatically a true statement. Okay, so we've looked at how to check values, we've looked at how to check if they're greater than or less than, and we looked at how to do two operations at the same time. So now we can move on to the next set of operators. Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at logical operators. So what are logical operators? Logical operators are used when you're trying to compare two different conditions. And that's when and or are used. But when you're trying to reverse the output of a condition, not is used. So first let's look at and. So here I've got an example, and we've set A's value to 2 and B's value to 4, okay? And we're trying to print the output of if A is lower than B. What do you think the output is going to be? It's going to be true, right? Because A's value is lower than B's value. And let's just say you're also trying to print if B's value is lower than A's value. What do you think is going to be the output? It's going to be false, right? Because B's value is greater than A's value, not lower than. But what if you're trying to compare both of these conditions in one statement? That's when and is used. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's just take this off, and let's just say we've got and we say B lower than A. And what and operator does, it checks both of the values, and even if one output is false, it changes the whole output to be false. So even though A's value is lower than B's value, and that's true, and B's value is greater than A's value, so that's false. So even if there's one false, it will change the whole statement to be false. So let's run this and see here. As you can see, the whole output is false. So this is how you check even if one statement is false, it will change the whole statement to false, right? And we could also use it in the other way. So let's just say we say if A is lower than B and B is greater than A. What do you think is going to be the output this time? Well, yeah, it's going to be true because both of the outputs are true, so it shows true. So that's what we can get from the AND operator. So even if one output is false, it will change the whole statement's output to be false. Now let's look at where OR is used. OR is used to see even if one condition is true, right? So let's go back to this right here, okay? So we know that one output is going to be true and one output is going to be false. And when we put an OR operator between these, what it will do is check both of those conditions, and even if one condition is true, it will print true. So when we run this, it will print true. But in the case of a AND operator, so let me just copy the statement here and paste it underneath. And when we put an AND operator, even if one statement is false, it will print false for the whole statement. So that's what we can get from the AND and OR operator. Okay, so now let's look at NOT, right? So let's just delete this, and let's just say if we wanted to print if A is lower than B, okay? And we know that it's going to print true, right? But if we put not in front of this, it will reverse the output to false. As you can see, reverse the output to false. Okay? So that is when not is used, when you're trying to reverse an output. So in case you put B is lower than A, and then you reverse the output of that, we're going to get true because the original output is false and we change that to true. So that's when not is used. Now, one more thing here. So let's just say you're trying to look if A is, let's print this. So if A is greater than B, and you're also trying to see if A is lower than B. Okay, so A is lower than B. And I wanted to see even if one condition was true. What would I use there? Yeah, I would use OR, because OR operator takes both of the condition, and even if one condition is true, it will change the whole output to be true, as you can see. Okay, we've looked at what's an AND operator, what's a NOT operator, and what's an OR operator. Now let's go to the next set of operations.